Imagine spending $300 million on a movie, which is more than the GDP of some small countries. You've got A-list stars, incredible special effects, and years of production work behind you. And then you just don't release it, you shelve it forever. That's exactly what happened with one of the most expensive films ever made, and the story behind why it disappeared is way stranger than anything that ended up on screen. This is about Batgirl, the DC superhero movie that cost Warner Brothers a fortune and that almost nobody will ever see. The year is 2021, and Warner Brothers is going all in on their DC superhero universe when they announce Batgirl, starring Leslie Grace as Barbara Gordon. The budget sits somewhere between $70 and $90 million initially, though that number kept climbing as production continued. Michael Keaton is returning as Batman, which alone was enough to get people excited since he hadn't played the character since 1992, and J.K. Simmons is back as Commissioner Gordon. Brendan Fraser is playing the villain Firefly, and on paper, this looks like a solid mid-budget superhero film that could work. The directors, Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah, had just come off directing episodes of Ms. Marvel for Disney+, and were excited about the project, posting behind-the-scenes footage on social media throughout production. Filming wrapped in early 2022, test screenings happened, and according to the New York Post, audience reactions were mixed but not terrible, just not great either. Some reports described it as feeling more like a TV movie than a theatrical release. And that's when things got weird. In August 2022, Warner Brothers Discovery, the newly merged company after Discovery bought Warner Brothers, made an announcement that shocked everyone in Hollywood by saying they were canceling Batgirl entirely, not delaying it or reworking it, but completely shelving it so the movie would never be released in theaters, never hit streaming, and never see the light of day. The official reason given was tax write-offs, and under U.S. tax law, if a company decides a project is unsalvageable and will never generate revenue, they can write off the entire loss. But here's the catch. Once you take that write-off, you legally cannot profit from that project ever, which means you can't release it, you can't sell it, and you can't even leak it online intentionally because the film has to stay locked away forever. David Zaslav, the CEO of the newly formed Warner Brothers Discovery, was looking at the balance sheets and making ruthless cuts across the board. According to reports from Variety and The Hollywood Reporter, the new leadership decided that releasing Batgirl as a streaming exclusive on HBO Max would damage the DC brand because they wanted DC films to feel like big theatrical events, not mid-budget streaming content. So they made a calculation between spending another $30 to $50 million on marketing and visual effects to finish and release the film properly, knowing it probably wouldn't make much money back, or taking the $90 million loss, writing it off for tax purposes, and saving the additional costs. They chose option 2. The human cost here is pretty devastating when you consider that Leslie Grace found out her big superhero debut was canceled on social media, like everyone else. In interviews afterward, she talked about how surreal it felt to have worked so hard on something that would just disappear from existence. The directors lost access to their own footage, and according to Deadline, they tried to save clips on their phones, but Warner Brothers Discovery even had those deleted remotely. For the crew, the situation was worse because hundreds of people worked on this film for months, including set designers, costume makers, visual effects artists, and stunt coordinators. They all put this on their resumes expecting it would boost their careers, but now they have a major credit that proves they worked on a movie nobody can ever watch. Try explaining that in a job interview. The backlash came immediately from other filmmakers who spoke out against the decision, and the Directors Guild of America released statements about how unprecedented this was. Hollywood has a long history of troubled productions, films that get recut, films that bomb, and films that go straight to video, but completely erasing a finished movie for tax purposes was something new. What makes this even more bizarre is what Warner Brothers Discovery did release around the same time, including The Flash, which reportedly cost over $200 million and became one of the biggest box office bombs of 2023. Blue Beetle had a smaller budget, but still lost money theatrically, and both of those got full releases, while Batgirl, which might have found an audience on streaming, got buried forever. There's also the question of what actually made the movie unsalvageable in their eyes. The few people who saw the test screenings say it wasn't great, but it wasn't unwatchable either. And some reports from Puck News suggested the visual effects looked unfinished, which makes sense since the film was still in post-production. Others said the tone felt off, too campy for the darker direction Zaslav wanted for DC films moving forward. But here's the thing that nobody talks about enough, which is that the decision to shelve Batgirl wasn't just about Batgirl itself. Warner Brothers Discovery needed to send a signal to Wall Street and investors that they were serious about cutting costs and refocusing their strategy, and Zaslav needed to show he could make tough calls. Sacrificing one movie, even an expensive one, sent that message loud and clear to shareholders. The financial details are complicated, but Warner Brothers Discovery inherited a lot of debt from the merger and needed to show they could reduce costs quickly. Between 2022 and 2023, they canceled multiple projects, laid off thousands of employees, and removed dozens of finished shows and movies from HBO Max to avoid paying residuals, which meant Batgirl was the most high-profile casualty, but far from the only one. What happened next reads like something straight out of a corporate thriller. In order to finalize the tax write-off, Warner Brothers Discovery had to prove the movie had no commercial value, which meant conducting what was essentially a funeral for the film. According to reports, they held private screenings for select executives and shareholders to demonstrate why the film couldn't be released, and these weren't test screenings for feedback, but proof of failure screenings to justify the write-off. The film negatives, digital files, and all copies were supposed to be destroyed or locked in a vault permanently. There are unconfirmed rumors that someone at Warner Brothers smuggled out a work print, but if that exists, it's never surfaced online and probably never will, because whoever leaked it could face serious legal consequences involving millions in damages for violating the terms of the tax write-off. For Michael Keaton, this was supposed to be his big return to the Batman franchise after appearing in The Flash, and Batgirl was meant to set up his older Batman, mentoring a new generation of heroes. After the film got shelved, the entire direction of his character changed, and his role in future DC projects got scaled back dramatically. Brendan Fraser, who was in the middle of his career comeback with The Whale, lost what could have been a fun villain role that would have added to his resurgence. J.K. Simmons' Commissioner Gordon, which he'd been developing across multiple films, essentially got written out of the DC Universe's future plans entirely. The directors, Ellarby and Falla, have been remarkably gracious about the whole thing in interviews, where they've said they understand it was a business decision and they don't blame anyone personally, but you can hear the disappointment in their voices when they mention they'd love to see the film released someday, even if it's just for the cast and crew, though they're realistic about it never happening. So where does Batgirl sit now in this strange corporate purgatory? Legally, the physical film exists somewhere in a Warner Brothers vault, and the digital files are backed up on servers, but it can never be released, sold, or streamed because it's locked away forever by tax law. There have been some attempts to change this situation from film preservationists and historians who have argued that Batgirl should be donated to the Library of Congress or a film archive for cultural preservation purposes. The argument is that even if it can't be commercially released, it should exist as part of Hollywood history. But so far, Warner Brothers Discovery has shown no interest in doing this. The whole situation raises bigger questions about what happens when art meets corporate finance and the collision between creativity and business decisions. Movies aren't just products, but the work of hundreds of people, many of whom poured months or years into a single project. And when a studio decides to erase that work entirely for a tax break, what does that say about how the industry values the people who actually make the films? And that's the story of how a $300 million superhero movie, well, depending on which reports you believe, somewhere between $90 and $100 million plus marketing costs that never happened, became a ghost that exists in Hollywood history but can never be seen. Here's what I'm curious about. Do you think they made the right call? Should studios be able to completely erase finished films for tax purposes? Or should there be some kind of preservation requirement for completed work? Let me know in the comments what you think about this. And if you want more stories about Hollywood's most expensive disasters and bizarre business decisions, hit that subscribe button. Because trust me, this isn't even close to the strangest thing that's happened behind closed doors in the entertainment industry. See you in the next one.